Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Wednesday Night Mayhem live on YouTube and StreamYard.com. It is Google MF Michael Fletcher alongside Anthony Florio and Michael Bullock. And, gentlemen, we are just going to dive right on in. You guys know the routine. We started off with NXT 2.0, then to be followed by AEW Dynamite on TBS. And, well, we're going to start off with NXT. And it wasn't just any typical NXT show. No, guys, this was a special event. An NXT Vengeance Day as that went down last night. And here we go. So we started off uh Vengeance Day with, let me see if I can get it. It's this one. All right. It was a steel cage match, as it was a weaponized steel cage match. Pete Dunne going up against Tony D'Angelo. Pete Dunne wins the match in 9 minutes and 52 seconds. 3 to 3.5 stars. Excellent jump off. Great matchup. The cage was excellent. The weapons that were used were amazing. Yes, you know me. When you talk about the Bruiserweight, you gotta talk about the limb manipulation. It was definitely in full display on this one. Anthony Florio screaming like usual. Had to probably turn his head maybe a couple of times in the match. But, it was excellent for what it was worth. Pete Dunne gets a big win. That's all I'm going to say. How does this hurt? This is going to hurt. In a way, it's going to hurt Tony D'Angelo because of the fact that Dunne got a big win. Pete Dunne's been between NXT and the main roster because he's been doing a lot of dark fights lately. And I do believe he's appeared on main event as well.
He sure has.
Yeah, so there's a very good possibility that Pete Dunne's days in NXT might be coming to an end, and he definitely looks like he might be on the verge of on the main roster call. But we'll wait and
Not
see.
Yet.
That's what I was gonna say. But I will say this: if he continues to be on NXT, he's definitely going to be a factor. But now that this Tony D'Angelo rivalry is probably over, because I think this is the end. I think that I would be, well, I shouldn't say I would be surprised, but I feel more confident that this is the blow off between the two. I hope it's the blow off. But if this is the blow off, this was an excellent final chapter to this rivalry. Anthony Floyd, 3 to 3.5. 3 to 3.5. Go ahead.
3.25, 3.5. It felt like it could have used a few more minutes as the two were rushing to hit their big spots. Even so, the two men brought a lot to this match. Pete Dunne gave enough to Tony D'Angelo to make him look like a future title contender in the loss. The near fall kick out of the bitter end was especially a huge sign that D'Angelo was a star in the making. The weapons may have distracted from his natural ability in the ring, but his resilient booking will give him more opportunities to shine. The Bruiserweight winning likely means he's got a bit more to give to NXT. He has a true title run in NXT left, unless there is a serious story in mind for him on Raw or SmackDown. So I will give this 3.25 to 3.5 stars. Mr. NXT, Phenom Michael Bullock, great way to start off Vengeance Day last night.
Yeah, this was definitely a great way to start off Vengeance Day. I'll give this 3.5. I mean, yeah, I wanted to see more, but in the time that we did get from this, I enjoyed it. I mean, yeah, I think this is definitely the blow off here, and I think it's move on to bigger and better things for these two. So we'll wait and see what the future holds. So yeah, so great way to start it off. So there's really nothing more for me to add here. So 3.5. Fletch, let's move on.
Then we move on to the NXT Women's Tag Team Championships. The champions, Gigi Dolan and JC Jane of Toxic Attraction, going up against Indy Hartwell and Persia Peralta. The winners of the bout, 7 minutes and 54 seconds. And still, the NXT Women's Tag Team Champions, Gigi Dolan, JC Jane, Toxic Attraction successfully defend the titles. Anthony, it's yours.
To me, this was Gigi Dolan and JC Jane's best performance as a tag team in a straight-up tag team match. It was not a major performance, but solid work for a team still finding their rhythm. It did help that the bout got just about normal TV time for the NXT women's division. Indy Hartwell and Persia Pirotta still have much to learn as a team themselves before they can take the gold. The two should be champions this year. Hartwell especially has earned a big run in NXT 2.0 before long. I will give this 2 3/4, teetering on 3 stars. By default, it was the worst fight of the night, but, like I said, it wasn't anything remotely bad. So, great effort. So, not much more to say. Michael Bullock, no big surprise. Champions stay the champions here.
Yeah, this was definitely no big surprise. 2.5 to 3 is my rating for it. And like you said, by default, this is the worst fight of the night, even though it really wasn't that bad. And Gigi Dolan and JC Jane won it clean. I mean, I was a little worried at first that maybe Mandy Rose was going to get involved, but no, that wasn't the case here. So a straight up win for these two. And yeah, this was easily the right decision here. I mean, Indy Hartwell and Persia Pirotta they'll get their hands on the gold eventually, maybe sometime this year. But this obviously wasn't the time. So 2.5 to 3. Fletch, it's yours.
Yeah, I'll say about 2 3/4. I think this was an excellent match. The ladies did everything well. They looked good in the ring. Everything was solid. But you gotta give it up for Toxic Attraction. And like you said, Anthony, you even alluded to it. This was their best performance. And I totally agree with what you just said there. They definitely looked like a cohesive unit. They worked their strength. They worked their strengths together. They looked like champions. This was a coming out for Toxic Attraction. And more importantly, give it up for Indy Hartwell and for Persia Peralta because of the fact that they really did give us a moment. There was a hope spot in this match where it looked like we were about to have new champions in this matchup. But at the end of the day, I think they did the right thing by keeping the belt on Toxic Attraction. So next up we had was Carmelo Hayes versus Cameron Grimes, the North American Championship on the line. Carmelo Hayes successfully defends the title. 15 minutes, 57 seconds. Michael Bullock, it's yours.
Yeah, this to me was a really good match here. I'll definitely give it maybe 3.5, 3 3/4 of a star here. I mean, this is definitely a very good match. Cameron Grimes definitely gave Carmelo Hayes all he can handle. But to me, I think this was the right move here. I mean, for Carmelo Hayes to retain the title. I mean, Cameron Grimes will get his hands on that belt eventually, but I just don't think this was the time here. So, great battle, great work by both men. So, Fletch, I give it to you.
I will say this. Cameron Grimes had one of his better performances with a great star in Carmelo Hayes. Carmelo Hayes is the future of NXT right now. I know everybody's talking about that Braun Breaker is the guy. No. Braun is great and Braun is good. Carmelo Hayes is a guy who can take the thing to the stratosphere. Carmelo Hayes is going to become the new face of NXT in a year. This man right now is money, and you know it. Every time he's in the ring, it's almost an amazing performance. And Cameron Grimes had one of his best performances as a professional in NXT because of Carmelo Hayes. This is fight of the night. This is 4 to 4.25 stars. And Anthony Florio, I give it to you.
I'm going to do you one better. 4.25 to 4.5 stars for me. I 100% agree. This was the fight of the night. No doubt about it. This was the first match to feel like it got the time it needed, and it mattered. Cameron Grimes and Carmelo Hayes were fantastic together, using every moment together to shine. This was dramatic, particularly down the stretch. Both men got close enough to the win that each near fall mattered. Once more, Melo survived a great match as champion. He has been the best champion in NXT 2.0 by a solid margin, and that only seems to solidify more by each performance. Hopefully, he and Cameron Grimes are not done yet, because their chemistry needs to be explored further. The Technical Savage deserves his own title reign, but it may never be his time in NXT 2.0, as much as I want to see it. So, we'll wait and see. But for me, this was the fight of the night, 4.25 to 4.5 stars. And let me tell you something. Carmelo Hayes, that young man, within the next year or so, like MF said, he's going to be a star. And to me, MF, I'm going to make a bold statement right here and right now. I believe he is the best wrestler on NXT 2.0, period. And a quotation and a statement. Strap that rocket on him. He is going to be a mega star.
Watch. I agree. I totally agree with that.
And you think maybe a future shot at the NXT Championship for this guy?
You damn right.
Oh, not only do I think he's a future title shot,
he's going to win.
I think he's a future champion of NXT.
He's going to dethrone Braun. He's going to beat Braun Breaker for it. Watch.
Well, the only problem is he has to lose the North American Championship. I do believe they will do this again. I do believe that they need to do a rematch, or maybe Cameron Grimes got to earn his way back to the title shot. But if Cameron Grimes gets it, he's taking that belt from Carmelo, and then Carmelo is going after the big belt and Braun Breaker, because once Braun is deciding, when WWE decides to finally send Braun Breaker up to the main roster, this is going to be the guy that's going to upend Braun, and he will take that ball and he will run as your NXT champion, Michael Bullock, for at least the next year or two, because that's how long I think this guy can be champion. He could be one of the greatest champions in NXT given the opportunity. So with that said, we go to the finals of the Dusty Classic, the Creed Brothers versus MSK. Of course, as you know, MSK won it a year ago, and the winners would be guaranteed a title shot at the NXT Tag Team Championship down the line. Ladies and gentlemen, the winners of the 2022 Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic is Julius and Brutus Creed. The Creed Brothers, representing Diamond Mine, they upset and knock out MSK in 9 minutes and 36 seconds. Anthony Florio, the winners is the Creed Brothers. They win the Dusty Classic.
The Creed Brothers had their best match so far last week against the Grizzled Young Veterans. This was not at that level, but it was still an engaging tag team clash between talented teams. These two teams have better than this in them for the future. This was a huge moment for Julius Creed. He was the star down the stretch, and the Creed Brothers officially win their first big title. It is likely they will dethrone Imperium, as the future looks entirely focused on these young athletes. Malcolm Bivens was great in the build-up to this moment. He may not forever be necessary for the Creed Brothers, but he has earned a permanent spot in WWE as a manager for the talent that needs him. He's a great mouthpiece. There is no doubt about that. So I can give this 3 to 3.25 stars for the effort, but not much more to say except Michael Bullock. I mean, here comes another bit of future here. I mean, we talk about how bright Carmelo Hayes' future is. I think we got a bright future in store for the Creed Brothers. And a matter of fact, I believe they're going to be the next NXT Tag Team Champions down the road.
Yeah, I could definitely see it happening. But can they dethrone Eichner and Martel when they get that opportunity? That's going to be the big question here, but we'll wait and see. 3.25. I agree with the rating on it. I mean, this was definitely a good match for the time in the time it did get. So there's really nothing more for me to say. And as far as the other match goes, I got to correct myself. It's 4.5 as far as I'm concerned with the Carmelo and Cameron Grimes. So now, Fletch, it's yours.
I would say that this was about 3 stars. I thought it was a solid match, and like you said, I was actually surprised that they gave it to Creeds. I honestly thought MSK was going to win it. I honestly thought MSK was going to win it 2 years in a row, because I thought that they were going to continue that rivalry between Imperium and MSK. Obviously, they want to go in a different direction, which I don't mind. That's actually something that we always like fresh new battles, fresh face battles that we can get. And I don't know. I mean, Creed and Imperium, that's heel versus heel. I don't know if that's really the right thing to do, though. But look, whatever the case may be, I'm all for it. The Creeds deserve it. They're definitely going to be rising stars, no doubt about it. So, congratulations to the Creeds for winning it all. Leads us to the main event of the evening, which was Braun Breaker versus Santos Escobar. NXT Championship on the line. Michael Bullock, it's yours as Braun Breaker successfully defends the title in 12 minutes and 5 seconds to be still the NXT champion.
I can only give this 3 stars for this match. I mean, it was a good match. No, don't get me wrong, but the only issue I have with this, Dolph Ziggler's involvement in this match. I mean, almost costing Braun Breaker the title, and then, of course, you had that little brawl with Tommaso Ciampa and Dolph Ziggler. I mean, I mean, and it was announced that next week, Dolph Ziggler and Tommaso Ciampa will face off on NXT. So now the big question is, what's next for Braun Breaker? So we'll have to wait and see. So 3 stars is my rating. I could give it 3.25, maybe 3.5, but because of the interference of Ziggler, I can only give it 3. So Fletch, it is yours.
I mean, 3 stars is definitely the right rating. It was an entertaining main event. I will give you that. I think it could have been a lot more better in certain elements. Um, I'm still warming up to Braun Breaker as the NXT champion. I'm not really that high on him right now. I know that the body of work needs to get better. I think he did a good job. I thought it was a solid match. I thought it was a very good main event. But I mean, as far as it being like for I guess you could say it like a takeover slash special. I mean, it was there. It was fine, but I just didn't think it was overly. It was good. It was solid, but I wasn't like, wow, this was a great main event. I do believe Santos Escobar definitely pushed Braun to a very good matchup. I just think it could have been a lot more better. I think there was moments that was left to be desired. I think that's the best way to say it. So, Anthony, it's yours.
I 100% agree. 3 stars for me. As soon as I get my notes up here. NXT tried to put this over as a huge title defense, but it never felt like there was a question of who would win. Braun Breaker got beat down and rose back up to pull out the win. The closest Santos Escobar got to a win was Dolph Ziggler interfering, which only solidified this as a secondary match for Breaker versus Ziggler. While any match getting no commercial interruptions is welcome, there were matches on this night that needed that spotlight more. This could have opened and had the same fanfare. In the end, Breaker got his win against a capable veteran with a fairly unimpressive win-loss record since he lost the Cruiserweight Championship. Hopefully, the next challengers, including Dolph Ziggler and maybe Walter, will bring more drama. 3 stars, overall review time.
All right, and I guess I get to lead off. Look, it was a fine NXT show. I think at the end of the day, I thought NXT did very well. I thought it was a solid event. I think like you said, it was left to be desired on certain elements. But I will say this: this is at least a seven. This was at least a 7.5 to 8 out of 10. I'm more on the 7.5 more than the 8. But if you want to make an argument for 8, I would not disagree with you on it. I thought they did a great job. This was a really good show. There's really nothing more to add. So Anthony Florio, it's yours.
7.5 to 8 out of 10. Carmelo Hayes and Cameron Grimes stole the show on this show. The cage match was very good, and the other matches could have been better, but they weren't overly bad. So 7.5 to 8 out of 10. I think that's the correct rating for this. So Michael Bullock taking home, and then we'll set it up for Dynamite.
Yeah, 7.5 to 8 out of 10 for me. I mean, I thought this was a fine edition of NXT Vengeance Day. I mean, you didn't have a bad match. I mean, although there were some that pretty much could have been better. But all in all, kudos to NXT 2.0 for putting on a good Vengeance Day. So there's really nothing more to say except Fletch, let's get on to AEW Dynamite.
We started it off with a promo segment. CM Punk with MJF. Oh my goodness. Wow, 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 wow. This was good. This was really good. I don't even think you can even make an argument, man. This was segment of the night for me. CM Punk absolutely devastating. What really got me was the way that he showed an old photo of a young MJF with CM Punk at a signing, and it was so amazing how life imitates art. Punk was such a young guy. This looked like the CM Punk from that looked like Ring of Honor days CM Punk. I don't think that was WWE. That looked like CM Punk from Ring of Honor or possibly maybe the ECW era of CM Punk when he was first starting. I don't know. I don't know when that year it came out, but then there was one other thing: CM Punk versus MJF at Revolution, and basically I think it was a dog collar match or it was like a chain match because I know the chain, that infamous chain, Anthony, that you remember that one. That's the chain of Greg the Hammer Valentine, and we all remember that legendary match way back when.
All right, gotta correct you here. It's a dog collar match.
Yep.
That's what it's going to be. And yes, I do remember. It was Greg the Hammer Valentine versus Rowdy Roddy Piper at the very first Starrcade in 1983, Thanksgiving night, the Greensboro Coliseum. Gordon Soley, Bob Caudle on the call with a babyface, and I do mean literally a babyface Tony Schiavone, working as a backstage interviewer like he does now. And it was there were two matches that followed that. A tag team title match by the Briscoe brothers defending against Ricky the Dragon Steamboat and Jay Youngblood, and of course the headliner of that show, which was Harley Race and Ric Flair, steel cage match for the NWA World Heavyweight Championship, Sweet Charlotte as we call it. So but anyways, MF nailed it. This was some great mic work by CM Punk. He recalled the Piper references, tied them to his own career, and set the stage for a bloody, violent encounter between him and the most hated man in AEW. The manner in which MJF went from bragging to anyone who would listen a week ago to being utterly silent, unsure of what to say or how to react in the face of being one-upped by Punk with some great character work, and really puts over the gravity of the situation. He is about to catch the ass whooping fans have expected for months now, and it will happen in what I believe will be a match of the year candidate. In a match that and also a match I believe will steal the damn show come March 6th at Revolution in Orlando. So I don't know what else there is for me to say on this, except this was the segment of the night. MF absolutely nailed it. It's only the second dog collar match in AEW history. The other was Cody Rhodes and Mr. Brody Lee. That was when Cody regained the TNT Championship from Mr. Brody Lee. One of the first 5-star matches in AEW history. So, I mean, I don't know what else there is for me to say here. So, if it's anything like that one, oh boy, we're in for something special. So, with that, Michael Bullock, CM Punk, MJF dog collar match, Revolution pay-per-view. Yeah, Piper and Valentine, Rhodes and Lee. Woo. If it's anything like those two, whoa boy.
Yeah, I mean, who knows what to expect? I mean, yeah, I mean, this promo was just absolutely awesome. I mean, especially CM Punk. I mean, this is why MJF, you do not want to get into a war of words with CM Punk, because 99% of the time when you're in a war of words with CM Punk, chances are you're going to lose that. And this was a prime example of it. And man, oh man, I definitely enjoyed it. I can't wait to see this dog collar match. And like I said, the last one we had, and like you said, was with Cody Rhodes and Mr. Brody Lee. And that was a 5-star match. Can it equal that? We'll have to find out at Revolution. So, and yeah, and this will definitely steal the damn show. So there's really nothing more for me to add. So let's move on.
First fight of the night: Lee Moriarty versus Bryan Danielson. The American Dragon wins at 12 minutes and 28 seconds. Anthony Floyo, it's yours.
If you're a fan of technical wrestling like myself and Michael Bullock are, let me tell you, you enjoyed this. And I certainly enjoyed this. I could go as far as to make an argument for Fight of the Night honors. I mean, that's how good this was. I mean, it is difficult to find a professional wrestler performing at the height of his abilities in the way that Bryan Danielson has since arriving in AEW. He is a virtuoso, a master of the mat game, capable of working the mat game, incensing the crowd, and stomping the ever-loving hell out of an opponent. He can do it all and has really found himself as a heel. Lee Moriarty, faced with a daunting task of match his opponent move for move, did just that. He was stellar in what amounted to the most important match of his career and should see increased opportunities as a result. Given the layout of the match and the intensity flashed by Danielson, he loses nothing in defeat. Continuing the intrigue surrounding Jon Moxley and Bryan Danielson is the right call, as there is definitely mileage left in that story that should not be hot-shotted. And if I'm overscoring this, I don't give a damn. 4 stars for me. This was fantastic. And, I mean, what did it for myself and Michael Bullock back in the day was the legendary series of matches with the Nature Boy Ric Flair and Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. I've always referenced Bullock as the Steamboat to my Flair. And, wow, it definitely had that kind of feel, if I'm being honest with you. So, I honestly thought. I mean, we all knew Danielson was going to win. I thought Danielson was going to have an easier time with him, but no. Moriarty continues to impress, and man, he gave Danielson much more fits than I honestly expected. And as a man who loves technical wrestling, I mean, man, that was awesome. So 4 stars for me. Like I said, if I overrated it, I don't give a damn, because that's how much I love technical wrestling. So there isn't much more to say. Michael Bullock, I mean, I already mentioned it. It was Flair and Steamboat that did it for us, and it kind of had that feel here tonight. I mean, if you love technical wrestling as much as you and I do, that was for you. What a match.
Yeah, definitely what a match this was. I mean, if you love technical wrestling, like you said, Florio, this was the match for you. And definitely you got to give Lee Moriarty credit. I mean, he hung in there with Bryan Danielson. I mean, we knew that we knew Bryan Danielson was going to win, but Lee Moriarty certainly proved that he can hang with the best of them. And of course, obviously, they're continuing the whole thing with Bryan Danielson and Jon Moxley. So I can't wait to see where this goes. So I'm actually going to go between 3.5 to 4. I mean, this is a good match here, a really good match. And yeah, I mean, if anybody disagrees with me and Florio's rating, you know what? Who cares? I mean, this is the kind of match me and Florio we like to see. So there's really nothing more for me to say. So Fletch, what says you?
I'll go with the 3 3/4 to the 4. I can give you that. I totally agree. This was a great match. This was very good on both fronts. I think everybody played their role really well. Yes, there is definitely a rivalry coming up between Moxley and Danielson, no doubt about it. I thought it was really good for what it was worth. So nothing more to add. We do go on to the next match of the evening, which was Warlow versus Matt Caster. Wardlow wins the match in 4 minutes and 41 seconds. Michael Bullock, if you want to give a quick thought, you can. If you don't, then we could just, if you feel like we should move on, we'll move on.
Yeah, I mean, Wardlow winning this match was the right call here. So, yeah, so that's really all I can say on it. So, if I have to give a rating on this one, I would say maybe 1.25. That's all I can give it. So, Fletch, it's yours.
All right. Yeah, I agree with that. Also, this was for the face of the revolution. So Warlow has just punched his ticket into the ladder match, joining Keith Lee that got in there last week. So I'm gonna say maybe about 1.5 to 2. I agree with that. I think it was an all right match. Really nothing more to say. So Anthony, it's yours.
Solid 2 for me. I mean, Wardlow smashing fools will never get boring. Here he was tested more than he has been to this point, and the use of mid-card heels to help enhance him is the perfect little bit of booking, in that it conditions the audience to cheer Wardlow before the actual babyface turn occurs. It's right out of the creative formula that helped Dave Bautista achieve main event status back in 2005. And Shawn Spears will inevitably be the last ass-kicking he deals before the inevitable showdown with MJF. So, solid 2. By default, it was the worst fight of the night, so there isn't really much more to say except that let's move on.
Next up we had was a match that was highly anticipated. Centennial and Ortiz versus Chris Jericho and Jake Hager. Santana and Ortiz wins the match in 11 minutes and 51 seconds. This was a solid match. I don't mind how this ended, but I will say this. The only thing that I have a bone to pick is Eddie Kingston because of the fact that he ran interference, distracting Jericho enough for Centennial Ortiz to win the match. You didn't need that. That's the one thing that I don't like about AEW is there's a lot of times you see a lot of overbooked finishes. Now, don't get me wrong. WWE has been indicted, and we have talked about this ad nauseatum about how they have had overbooked finishes in their matches and has angered us in the past, but this has to be called out on AEW. And this was another one of those reasons, another one of those ugly moments is that reared its head in this match here tonight. So if it wasn't for that, this easily would have been maybe about 3 3/4 to 4. But I can only give this about maybe 3 1/4 to 3 1/2. Other than that, Anthony, it's yours.
The strength of this match, besides really solid in-ring action, was the intrigue it creates. This didn't solve anything. The issues within Inner Circle are worse than they were, and now Eddie Kingston is back, ready to add gasoline to an already towering inferno. Not even taking into consideration the effect it has on TNT champion Sammy Guevara, who is no longer content to let his character be dictated by bickering besties. It'll be interesting to see if this is, in fact, the end of the most dominant faction in AEW history. 3 1/4 to 3.5 stars. I agree with the ratings, so really not much more to say. Michael Bullock, your thoughts?
Yeah, 3 1/4, 3.5. I mean, yeah, I got a problem with the. I mean, you didn't need the interference from Eddie Kingston. I mean, it was completely pointless. I mean, I'm with Fletcher. I could have given this maybe 4 stars, but because of this chicanery here, and that's why I can only give it the same thing too. And I mean, come on, guys. Who do you think is more responsible for the Inner Circle imploding? Who is it?
It's Eddie. Because Eddie Kingston was feeling like Chris Jericho was holding down Centennial and Ortiz. Now, do I agree with that? There might be some truth to it, but no, Eddie Kingston was the one who threw. He's the one that threw the name palm into this fire.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, is there some truth to it? Yeah, perhaps, but this is all basically Eddie Kingston trying to start some trouble here. But then again, this is Eddie Kingston. I mean, he's been known for starting trouble before. I mean, he's done this kind of crap in the past. I mean, come on, Fletch. I mean, look at what he did with the bunny, bringing the bunny back to the Butcher and the Blade.
Yeah. After it looked like Allie was she was I don't want to say was smitten, but she definitely was playing. She was a member of the Nightmare family, if you remember. She was part of Cody Rhodes with Brandy Rhodes and everything else. Even though Brandy and Allie kind of never saw eye to eye, but they were working together enough because if I remember, Dustin Rhodes and who was the other one? Anthony, you know the who was
QT Marshall?
Was it QT Marshall?
Because I thought
that's who Allie had the relationship with.
What?
Allie has a relationship with QT Marshall.
Yeah, so it was QT Marshall and Allie, and they were kind of hitting it off. Now Dustin was a little bit like, I don't know about this. I know Brandy had her suspicions about Allie dating back to the days of Impact Wrestling. Because Brandy was there for a little bit, for a moment. And of course, Allie was like one of the biggest stars in Impact Wrestling. Anthony, you know that by heart. Because
former Knockouts champion, absolutely.
Former Knockouts champion and everything else. And, that thing with Maria and, that storyline there. So, yeah. But, I mean, like you said, they've been notorious for causing a lot of hay, a lot of trouble and everything else. So, you're absolutely right, Bullock. Eddie Kingston is not he's not a guy who has been surprised in these type of moments. So yeah.
Yeah. And I remember when the moment it happened, you were like, Eddie Kingston, what the hell are you doing? I remember that. So 3 1/4, 3.5. So there's really nothing more for me to say, Fletch. Let's move on.
No DQ match up next, as it was Mercedes Martinez versus Thunder Rosa. Thunder Rosa wins the match in 9 minutes and 14 seconds. This was a solid. Who leads off? I lead off, yeah. So, no, I was right. This was a solid match. This was easily another, I want to say another 2.5 to 3 star match. I thought it was solid for what it was worth. But at the end of it, that was when Dr. Britt Baker and her crew rolls in and basically beats down, interferes and beats down Thunder Rosa. So, I mean, yeah, we'll have to wait and see how that plays out. I thought it was a good match for what it was worth. So, Anthony, it's yours.
Yeah, I'm going to be a little more generous on this rating. I'm going to say 3 to 3.25. A hell of a match between these two women, with a wicked bump by Thunder Rosa off that German suplex. The finish was clever in that it played on the introduction of chairs in the post-match, set the rivals up to be reluctant partners against the heels. The end game is obviously Thunder Rosa versus Britt Baker, presumably with the babyface beating the Good Doctor for the title. Given how over she has been since day one and the rich history between the two, that is a booking direction that makes sense and that fans can get behind. I could see this happening at Revolution. I think it will be Dr. Britt Baker versus Thunder Rosa for the AEW Women's Championship. And I believe Thunder Rosa will be the next AEW Women's World Champion. So with that being said, 3 to 3.25 stars for this. Michael Bullock, your thoughts?
Yeah, 3 stars is my rating for this. I mean, I thought this was a good match here. I mean, it's kind of what you expected in a no DQ match like this. And then, yeah, like you said, after the match, Dr. Britt Baker and her crew basically beat down Thunder Rosa, because you know that Thunder Rosa is a threat to Dr. Britt Baker and the AEW Women's World Championship. And yeah, I think this is going to go down at Revolution. And I think this could be the time where Dr. Britt Baker finally drops the belt, but you never know. We'll wait and see. So, nothing more to say. Fletch, let's move on.
All right, and it leads us to the main event of the evening, as it was the TNT title on the line. Sammy Guevara, the Spanish God, going up against Darby Allin. Sammy Guevara wins the match, successfully defends the title in 14 minutes, 38 seconds. Anthony Florio, you lead off.
It looks this definitely was the fight of the night here by a slim margin. 4 to 4. I'm going to give it 4.25 stars for this. We have seen Sammy Guevara I'm going to give it 4 to 4.25. We have seen Guevara and Allen wrestle on big stages before in better matches, but this was still an ultra-competitive main event that set the stage for a 3-way feud over the TNT title, also involving Andrade El Idolo, and not a moment too soon. El Idolo was in danger of fading into mid-card obscurity, any momentum he had following his arrival in the company wasting away. The partnership with Matt Hardy and the Hardy family office may not be the most thrilling storyline development, but it has returned El Idolo to prominence on Dynamite and Rampage. More importantly, it puts him in contention for a championship, new territory for the WWE export. A 3-way dance pitting Darby Allin, Sammy Guevara, and Andrade El Idolo is a hell of an option for the upcoming pay-per-view, if that is where things are heading. 4 to 4.25 stars by a slim margin. Fight of the night. Michael Bullock, your thoughts?
I can only give this 3.75 to 4. I mean, and the reason why, Andrade El Idolo basically, he hit Darby Allin with whatever that thing was, and allowed Sammy Guevara to pick up the win here. So, to me, I got a problem with that. I mean, you could have at least waited until after the match to do this. I mean, they did do something like this, but it didn't need this. Let these two go. I mean, you didn't need the interference from Andrade El Idolo and Matt Hardy. I mean, that's just my personal opinion. I don't know where Fletch stands on this, but 3.25 to, 3 3/4 to 4. I mean, I could go a little higher, but I just can't because of this. So Fletch, it is yours.
3.5 to 3 3/4. I can't give it the 4, and you even admitted it. It was exactly what happened in the end, and it was a little bit of a disappointment more than anything else. And yeah, you're absolutely right. So I mean, it was still a solid main event. It was still a good match to say the very least. And Michael Bullock, I'll give it to you to lead off on the overall review.
I thought this was a solid edition of Dynamite. I mean, you didn't have any bad things going on here. I mean, there was, obviously some things that could have been better, and some things that that really didn't need here. So 7.5 to 8 is my rating. Everything else. Everything else was good, but it's just those two things. From the Eddie King. The Eddie Kingston situation with the tag team match and the main event. So 7.5 to 8. Fletch, it's yours.
I agree. I'll go with 7.5 more than anything else. I thought it was a solid show. Yeah, you guys are preaching to the choir about the negatives, and there was. Like I said, it was a solid show, but I mean we've seen Dynamite blow the doors off us a few times already, and I kind of felt like this one was kind of a stagnant show. Yes, it was good, it was solid, but it wasn't like anything overly special. It wasn't anything that really would have said like, "Oh my God, this is," there was nothing really newsworthy. And I don't know if it's because of the fact that AEW did suffer a loss. They did lose Brandy Rhodes and Cody. They both left AEW. So I mean, shuffling the deck and everything else, I just don't know what's gonna happen. But yeah. There's really nothing more to add. And Anthony, you have the final say on tonight.
7.5 for me. The opening match and the main event, we were bookended by the fights of the night. Honestly, it was very hard to put one over the other, but now I'm starting to maybe think maybe I should have put Danielson and Moriarty as the fight of the night, considering there was no interference in that one whatsoever. But the main event was very good as well. All the matches were solid to good to great. We had the one match, but not even that was remotely bad. And those couple of interference moments there, but hey, the crowd was electric. I loved. And it was also a great venue, a legendary venue in the Nashville Municipal Auditorium. It was so awesome to see a wrestling show there. It's been a long time since we've had one there. And, it brought back so many great memories of past events at Nashville Auditorium. So, there isn't really much more to say on that. So, another great night for Nashville. And they come to our neck of the woods in New England, as they'll be in Connecticut next week, Bridgeport, Connecticut. So, be interesting to see how we get to that. We have two Dynamites left before we get to the big show in Revolution. So 7.5 for me. So with that being said, MF, let's put the bow on it, and then we'll have an interesting behind the scenes afterwards.
Yeah. So guys, we're gonna end it here, and tomorrow night is another edition of Strictly Sports. This time we're gonna be covering. There's a lot to cover, guys. We're talking about a whole bunch of different news and views and everything else, including our recap of the Super Bowl that went down. So there's really nothing more to add. So we'll see you 10:30 tomorrow night. Have a good night, everybody. So long for now.